Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. I'm Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, my pronouns are he, him. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 79, Balash, which we established last time is just Vologases in the future, so technically Vologases the 7th, but nobody calls him that, so...
I see. I was like, what is this name? But yes, you did mention that last episode.
Yes, indeed. So, Sariel, how are you going to this episode? What are your hopes and fears?
So, everything is bad
Yes,
and on fire.
Bad.
So, I don't really know how we're going to, I expect for us to get conquered, or for, people take this opportunity to invade, or for someone to, take the throne, although, brave of them to take the throne on an empire that is crumbling. So, if someone wants the job, that is impressive.
Yeah, you need to be pretty sure of your own abilities to take control of everything when it's
because it's
fire,
but I still get to be king, and it's everything is gonna collapse, and you might get captured by whoever, and just it might be worse for you. The mortality rate of monarchs and the life expectancy of monarchs is not usually high, which is wild because I assume they have better care in general than most people.
Oh yeah, I assume dying a natural death is more unlikely, but
getting assassinated is all the rage nowadays. So yeah, I don't know. I expect things to still be on fire, and then hopefully we see a way out of the fire, but I don't think we will on this episode.
Well, there might be an unexpected hero coming over to save everything. So
I sure hope so, because we are getting towards the end of our first season, but
yes,
we're not there yet. And also there's more seasons afterwards, so...
Yes, we still have a few episodes, a dozen episodes left at least. And, you could have a dozen kings in rapid succession. It has happened. You could have a year with 12 kings and just see everything collapse on fire.
Every episode, we won't even get an episode per king. It'll just be okay, and here's the last 12. These are their names.
All together.
They ruled for a day each. Yep, some of them ruled at the same time because people were agreeing.
You joke, Sariel, but that's what the end often looks like.
No.
So
I was just going
off
of
how
my
Balash does.
Pope and Roman knowledge,
Yeah.
It gets messy.
The end of the West in Rome is, there are 10 emperors in 10 years, and it's all terrible. So let's see if this is the case or not. So, Balash, let's start and see. Well, first, brief recap for anybody who might be listening after a while. Last episode was Peroz I. Peroz overthrew his brother Hormizd III, became king of kings, but he did this with the help of the Hephthalites, or White Huns.
Terrible idea.
These Hephthalites asked Peroz for help in conquering some steppe nomads on the border with the empire. Peroz helped. Then Peroz went to war with the Hephthalites because they were coming into conflict eventually.
Yep.
Got captured once, tried to get revenge, got lost in a desert, got captured again.
Yep.
Then there were rebellions in the Caucasus. Then he went off to the east one last time and lost his whole army, many of his sons, many of his brothers, and his life fighting the Hephthalites.
Yep. It was just a bad idea after another.
Yeah, it's not. He still got shot and shot, to be fair. So
because it was an amazing story, but terrible ruler. Also, I guess the only idea that might not have been terrible, out the get-go, is him wanting to be king, because you never know. Sometimes you have a second or third son who is actually really, really good at their job.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I don't think it's a brilliant idea, because his brother was actually educated to be a ruler. that one is the only one that I give him a pass on. Every idea subsequently, bad.
I mean, he was reasonably nice at helping with the famine.
Yes.
He gave money to
that was fine. I meant
threatened people to be nice.
That militarily just bad.
Sadly. But yeah, okay, let's see who Balash is, and is he up to the challenge of the worst crisis the Empire's ever faced? Or maybe not. So, Balash was not a son of Peroz. He was actually a brother of Peroz, and consequently Hormizd III, which makes him a son of Yazdegerd II at the time. So, during Peroz's early reign, Balash stood out of this civil war between his two elder brothers, and was basically rather unknown for most of Peroz's reign. And he only came to the spotlight in the aftermath of Peroz's death, since it looks like he was left in charge of the empire as a sort of regent while Peroz was off attacking the Hephthalites. So it looks like Balash was trusted enough by his brother that he could govern something for a little bit, but it wasn't a sort of, he is designated as heir, which is kind of complicated. So what happens is that Balash is made King of Kings kind of by default, because he was already in charge, but the nobles agree amongst themselves that yes, they could make one of Peroz's sons his actual heir. So like Kavad was this kid that you remember last time. He was around, he was meant to be the heir.
Right.
But it's kind of not wise to give him the throne now because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just some kid.
Yeah.
While Balash actually at least has some experience ruling the empire when Peroz is away, so he has some skills and maybe he'll save us. That will be good.
Maybe he'll save us. We're just hoping,
We need someone to save us, Ariel.
Yeah, that's
true. We just
true.
need something.
Anything, really.
In the aftermath of Peroz's death, one of his daughters was captured by the Hephthalite Khan, and all the priesthood that came with him on campaign were captured, and the East was entirely open to invasion.
Yay.
This is when the most unlikely of heroes comes in.
Huh? Okay. I thought we were just going down from here.
Who do you think is the most unlikely hero, Sariel?
The Romans?
Nope,
Okay,
more unlikely than that.
More?
Who do you not expect to be helpful at all?
The nobles?
Exactly.
Ah!
A noble finally does something useful.
Oh my god.
It's the time for a hero to rise.
Oh my god. Wait. Like, I am genuinely, I don't know how to react. Because I'm like, well, surely the Romans are not gonna, like, they are our enemies, they're not gonna help. And you're like, no, more unlikely. And I'm like, what? Well, surely. The nobles are not going to fix this.
Good God.
They've never done anything helpful to the Empire. Unless it was incredibly helpful to them. And then, maybe by chance.
It is definitely out of self-interest.
Of course.
But someone helps, because the Karen family owns a lot of the east. It owns a lot of the area of Sistan in the east of the Empire. And that is the part that is directly under threat by the Hephthalites now. So the leader of the Karen family, a man called Sukra, decides to take charge and mount a fierce resistance against the invaders.
Okay.
So Sukra was in charge of the remains of the army that fled from the battle that Peroz had lost, and he came face to face with the Hephthalites.
Damn, okay.
Al-Tabari tells us that when the armies faced each other, a man rode out to attack Sukra, and Sukra responded by shooting an arrow right through the skull of the man's horse.
Whoa.
And then capturing the rider when he fell off.
Okay, that might have been a lucky shot, might have not, but like an arrow going through the skull of a horse, that's really...
pretty intense.
Yeah, intense and visually, oof. Okay.
Yes. Sukra then sent this man back to the Hephthalites to tell them what had happened, that he is kind of terrifying. And according to the legend, the Hephthalite ruler was so scared that he returned all of Peroz's entourage and went home.
I doubt it. I doubt that's how it happened, but we can say that, I guess.
Yeah. Now, in reality, what happened is probably that Sukra managed to fight a follow-up battle and win it. against the Hephthalites, so he managed to stop them from just streaming through the empire.
Yeah.
So in this way, he kind of saved Sassanid honor from a total defeat, but the core of the royal army still has been destroyed, and the empire is still in crisis. Yep. But, Sukhra at least...
Not as bad.
He stopped the bleeding, at least. There might be other issues, but for now, we have basic security. Also, you'll be interested to know that Sukhra is a version of the name Sohrab, which is the son of the great hero Rostam in the Shahnameh.
Oh.
Which, incidentally, comes from the same region that Sukhra governed.
Oh, nice.
So...
good for legends, yeah.
Yeah. If we add this to the heroic treatment that he gets, it's likely that some of the myths around Rostam and Sohrab come from Sukhra and his family. Oh. Which is pretty cool to be
really immortalized.
Awesome. You're immortalized in myth as the heroic Hercules-type person who chased the nomads away and saved us from destruction.
Damn.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That's really impressive.
So, good one, Sukhra.
Mm.
But at this point, the situation on the succession was still unclear because, Balash was technically left in charge while Peroz was away, but he wasn't officially made king or crowned or anything.
Yeah, so now that he's away for good, what do we go?
Yeah, now that there's a little bit of peace, what are we doing? Well, it looks like the nobles of the empire, chief of them Sukhra, who had recently saved the empire and is now, riding high on that.
God, they're gonna be insufferable now. Hell.
Very much. And also the Mihran family, which were the main supporters of Peroz, if you remember them. They helped him during the Civil War at the time, and very intense.
The only ones who, were at his side, actually.
That's right. And, they chose Balash, who seems to have been a peaceful and conciliatory personality, to become King of Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Because, he didn't interfere in the Civil War when he could have. He is probably not a terribly active king, let's say, if he could be left to mind the empire while the king was away. So, we can control him if needed.
Yeah, he's malleable.
Yeah,
agree.
But however, according to an Armenian source, we're told that Sukhra made it very clear what Balash should do. So once he was made king, he went up to him and said, "You are to reduce by soft words and friendship the nations who have rebelled, to acknowledge each person among the Aryans and non-Aryans according to his individual worth, to recognize and distinguish the excellent and the worthless, to consult with the wise, to love well-wishers, but to scorn and destroy the envious and slanderous."
Yeah. I can't believe this sort of advice is coming from a noble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The main vibe that we're giving off is that Balash is king, but Sukhra's in charge.
Yeah.
Balash gets to sit on the throne and, enjoy the luxuries of being king, but he has to do everything Sukhra tells him. Because, hey, Sukhra saved the empire. Know your position, man.
Yep.
Okay, so we've established the new king, Huzzah. How do we close up the situation with the Hephthalites? We don't really have details on what happened to the Hephthalites themselves, but it looks like that a deal was reached where they wouldn't invade Iran, which is nice, because they had been repelled by Sukhra before.
Thank God, because they were just so close to just taking over the entire thing.
Yeah, and in exchange, they get to have a hefty tribute.
Yeah. So we pay them to leave us alone.
Yeah, we pay them to leave us alone, but we get to keep the empire, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess that's
I'm not
worth
against
some
it.
money.
If we have the money.
Yeah, we'll find out soon. We don't really have all that money. We'll need to find it from somewhere, but we have enough money to make the first payment.
Yeah.
So that's good enough for now.
Yeah, I guess that's fine.
But Balash still has some issues to deal with in the rest of the empire. You'll remember that the Caucasus was rebelling, so we need to go over to Armenia and crush those rebels.
Yeah.
But what is the problem with crushing the rebels, Ariel? Can you see why that will be difficult?
Where's our army?
Correct. That is
Oops.
an entirely fair problem. So Balash looks at Armenia and thinks, that's not great.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. he decides that he's going to just make a deal with the Armenians and sure, you can have whatever you like, just stop rebelling. Let's just go back to being friends again. Is that cool?
Being friends.
Okay, great.
Sure. That's what we were. Friends.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. And the Armenians seem to take full advantage of this weak situation of the empire, and they make very strong demands. They not only demand that Christianity is going to be tolerated in Armenia,
obviously,
which was their original demand, of course, but they also demand that Zoroastrianism be made illegal in Armenia, and all the remaining temples there should be demolished.
Oh no. Dude, but how does this make you better than, like, this just makes you the same?
Yes,
isn't Christianity the religion of, like, turning your other cheek and forgiving and all of that?
Yeah, not in this case.
Yeah.
You will remember that St. Gregory the Armenian, St. Gregory the Illuminator, he also did that, so
yeah.
They're just going back to their roots. They're just deciding that, no, it's time to persecute other people now, because people never learn. So, okay, Armenia has been reabsorbed into the empire at the cost of some pretty heavy concessions. That doesn't make Balash look great, though.
Nope. Isn't he supposed to be like a Zoroastrian ruler?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the nobles do like this sort of thing. The situation gets so fraught that a brother of Balash, a man called Zarer, rose in rebellion against him. Saying, hey, you're clearly not good at this, you're clearly a puppet and just folding to everybody's demands. I'll try and take over instead. But fortunately here, the Armenian deal came in handy for Balash. Because guess which the only army in the empire that hasn't been utterly smashed by the Hephthalites is? It's the Armenian army.
Yeah,
they were doing other things. And, well, now they're friendly with Balash, so...
Yeah, they want to keep this deal, obviously.
Yeah, they want to keep it. They don't want the regime to change, so Balash gathers the remains of the royal army and adds a large Armenian contingent to it, and together with that, he manages to finally win this civil war against his brother and not get overthrown. And as thanks for this, he also makes the former rebel leader of Armenia the official governor of the country.
Oh boy.
So that he
can
control it better.
Look great,
and
but
fine.
like, I guess
it's sort of like desperate times, Ariel. We need to find a way to keep everything alive, because otherwise we'll all be screwed.
Yeah, just saying.
And yeah, apparently Balash, during his reign, he tried to be seen as humane and merciful and kind to his people, because he wrote on the back of his coins, the good King Balash, and wanted to take care of his subjects.
Your friend and neighbor Spider-Man, you know.
Yeah, your friendly neighborhood Balash man.
Yeah.
We're told by Al-Tabari that Balash, when he saw an empty house in a village, he would punish the leader of the village because he hadn't helped out the former owners of the house, and with his negligence, he'd force them to emigrate elsewhere. So you should make sure that your villages, everybody's happy to live where they're living, and
That's
they shouldn't
a page
just leave
of
away.
Our previous king's book. What's his name? Paris, yeah. I was like, yes. Porthos? No, that's not it.
No, that's a musketeer.
Yeah, I know. We're not there yet.
But yeah, he is using a very similar vibe. He's trying to say, hey, people should take care of each other.
Yeah.
The empire's not doing well now, so we should all be helpful.
Yeah. I do love I mentioned it on our previous episode, but I do love the aggressive kindness of you will help each other. Or else.
Yes. Balash was also quite friendly to the Christians, and during a church council in Seleucia, he was praised by them, saying that he was a good king and a helpful king, probably allowing Armenia to just be fully Christian was points for him, I suppose.
Yeah.
Also, incidentally, this council confirmed that Nestorian Christology was the only allowed one in the empire, and it forbid celibacy for Christian clergy in imitation to what happened to Zoroastrian priests. So it's becoming quite an Eastern church indeed. Balash also sent the Bishop of Seleucia as an ambassador to the Roman Emperor Zeno, and then he sent another bishop to clearly mark the border between the Sassanid and Roman empires, because we're not doing so hot it would be nice to make sure that the Romans don't get any funny ideas and we have no reasons for friction and we can all be peaceful and happy.
Sure.
However, of course, this always caused friction with the Zoroastrian priesthood, who were always saying, why are you being so friendly to the Christians? What do you mean? This isn't good. You're meant to be a Zoroastrian king. Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
There were others that actually disliked Balash because he was criticized for trying to build public baths in the cities in the Roman style.
Oh, I see. And this is Roman, and this is bad, because what have the Romans ever done for us?
Yeah, and it also could be seen as sacrilegious by the Zoroastrians because you're contaminating water.
I see.
And water is like a sacred element, so...
But you got a bath.
Yeah. Apparently they didn't like it. Too many bathhouses, too Roman, too sacrilegious. How dare you?
I see.
This annoyed his army and nobles, who saw him as a weak king. He had basically just given up Armenia. Yeah, we got peace with the Hephalites, but that was all Sucra. So why do we even need Balash if he's just going to give things up instead of standing up for the empire? That's not good.
So they kill him?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Sucra, the puppet master, decided to depose Balash in favor of his nephew Kavad. Remember the son of Peroz who had been held hostage by the Hephthalites?
Right. Oh my god.
Yes.
He's back.
Yeah. Sucra went up to Balash and told him that he didn't know how to be king. He made a mockery of kingship, and Kavad was much better suited to the post. So he should just leave, please.
Did he leave?
Well, we don't really know what happened to Balash after that, but ex-kings tend to have a reduced lifespan.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm like, did he just go, or did they kill him?
Yeah, we don't have anybody officially telling us that he was killed, but one book I read claimed that he was blinded, but they didn't give a primary source, so take it with a grain of salt, but it would kind of make sense that to ensure he doesn't come back, you would mutilate him so he doesn't get to be king. And yeah, so that is the end of Balash's reign. Next up, we'll have Kavad, our little boy who has been raised by the Hephthalites, kept hostage for a while, and now appointed as the next puppet by Sucra, and we'll see how well he does.
I wonder what he learned over there, and if we're gonna be then friendly to the Hephthalites because of that.
We might. We'll have to find out. So, what are your thoughts on Balash? Was this reign worse or better than you expected?
Better than I expected. Because, like, things are on the mend, you know. Like, not everything is great.
The empire
but, like,
hasn't collapsed. If
hasn't
somebody had
gotten
mishandled
worse.
this, it would have.
Yeah. I'm very impressed. And it is because of Sucra, of course.
Yeah.
Like, the reason why we're still here is because he stepped in, as much as I...
Yes, finally a noble did something useful.
Yep.
And, well... It's like that meme when the worst person you know made an excellent point.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And you're like,
well, fine, I suppose.
Guess you get this one.
Well, yeah, in that case, are you ready to rate him, Serial?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. So, our first category is final moments. How interesting was his death?
We don't know.
Presumably disappearing into nothingness, maybe after being blinded.
Meh.
I'd say a 0. There's nothing really to go on here. It's just very plain. Very milquetoast. So, with a 0 and a 0, we get a 0 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was he at war and fighting? Well, the one bit of warfare that we could attribute to Balash is Sucra's campaign, where he stopped the Hephthalites. He defeated them at some point, and they left. How many points you want to give is an open question, because it's a really important victory. If it wasn't there, you would have lost everything. And it was done with the remains of Peroz's army and some of Sucra's personal forces from his lands. But also, it wasn't on Balash's orders. Like, this was just Sucra taking the initiative and saying, oh no, the empire's going to fall if I don't do this. I need to do this right now. So how much credit do you want to give Balash for this victory? It was made in his name, to be fair, but he had no input in it.
I mean, which, like, most kings don't go to battles all the time, like, themselves, right? So, like, if we've given other victories to other kings...
True, but those kings have generally said,
he didn't say to anybody, hey, go do this.
Yeah.
this noble just went on his own, and to be honest, if he had failed, it would have been bad for him. So
Yeah. So how much do you think that's worth?
I don't. It doesn't seem fair to give him a bunch of points because of it. But it still happened under his reign, so like
Yes.
1 honorary point.
I think that's fair.
It was very important because like otherwise the empire would just not be here. But like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 1 point is fair because he had no input.
Yep.
And he wasn't even technically king at that point. He was just the caretaker, and maybe he hadn't even had news that the battle had happened.
Yep.
But it was in his name, so I feel like 1 point is fair just to keep him there. So with a 1 and a 1, we get a 2 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good was he at plots and manipulations? Not at all, really. If anything, he got manipulated by everyone else. Like, Sukra was the puppet master, and as soon as Balash tried to do something more independent, he was deposed.
Yep.
So there wasn't much to go on there. It was just lying around, and basically his deal for negotiating with the Armenians was just give them whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked out for him in the civil war with Zarer, but
yeah,
that's it. You can't say much else. So I think it's going to be a 0. So with a 0 and a 0, we get a 0 of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this man? A little bit. I mean, he just basically surrendered to the Armenians, saying, yep, it's fine. You don't have to be Zoroastrian anymore. Just be fully Christian.
Yep.
I give up. I don't know if you want to put as shocking that he is just an absolute puppet. He is just doing nothing. He is just standing around and trying to be nice, but that's it.
This does not go in scheminess, I'm sorry.
No, shock factor.
Oh, shock factor. Yeah, no, that's what I meant. Like, the fact that he was a puppet is like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I expected it from him, that's why they chose him. It would be shocking if, like, a very independent and strong thinker ruler suddenly did that, but with him I'm like, yeah, makes sense. He stayed a puppet after they chose him for being, you know.
So yeah, that's kind of disappointing. One last thing is that he tried to negotiate with the Romans, which upset a few people.
Yeah.
And so he was overthrown. I feel like in total it's worth 1 token point for the just giving up for Armenia and angering people, but not much else, honestly.
Yeah.
What do you think? You matching a 1 or going for a 0?
I'm going for a 0. I didn't find much shocking.
So with a 1 and a 0, we get a 1 out of 20 for shock factor. Our next category is Aaron Shine. How good is he for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? Well, I mean, okay. So first thing, in his name, the Hephthalites were stopped. That doesn't mean that the Hephthalites were pushed back. It just means that they didn't destroy the Empire.
Yeah.
They managed to conquer a lot of border areas, and now we have a peace treaty where we're paying them money we don't have.
Yep. Which, you know.
So that's not ideal.
You might argue that's not great.
Yeah. In Armenia, we just gave up. The rebellion was just like, yep, have what you want. That's it. And yeah, that helped him during the Civil War, and he won a small civil war against his brother, but suboptimal.
At what cost?
Yeah. And then he was a puppet during all his reign. The nobles are so powerful now. Sukra is basically king.
Yep.
In all but name. So that's not great for the empire. That's not great for royal power. And on the plus side, Balash seems to have been nice and, you know, encouraged people to be good to each other.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he didn't make things worse, right?
Made them a little bit worse.
A little bit with the nobles, yeah.
It's like, with the nobles, with the Armenians, and with the being overthrown, those are all elements of instability that you're putting on.
True.
I think I'm going to go for a 2. again, going from 5, removing the nobles, Armenia, the overthrow. Because I think things are bad. The empire is worse than it was under the height of Peroz, for example. It's not worse than it was at the end of Peroz, but it is worse than it was when Peroz was just doing fine. Because Peroz could deal with rebellions, could deal with the nobles, but Balash did nothing of all that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go for a 2. How about you?
That's fair. Maybe I'll go for a 3. I feel like the Empire is not doing as bad as it was before.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know, because we gave Peros a 1?
I gave Peroz a 1, you gave him a 2.
Okay. Yeah, if I give Peros a 2, then I have to give Balas a 3.
That's fair enough. Yeah, we're both going one step above Peroz.
Yeah.
So with a 2 and a 3, we get a 5 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this man looked like?
I do not think about this man.
Okay, so Sarah has finished their drawing. Let me pick it up and I'll describe it to you all. Oh no, so sad. But very good. I like it. So what we have here are 2 figures. One of them is looking more imperious. He has a robe, shorter hair, and a shorter beard, I'd say. And he is holding his hand onto the hilt of a sword, and he's looking at our boy Balash, the king, who is usual robe, slightly long hair, longer beard, and a nice crown with some crenellations and a big sphere on top, atop a half moon. And the other figure, who we establish is Sukra, is saying, "Reign with kindness and wisdom, I won't save you again." Saving him once was too much, and honestly, the nobles did one helpful thing this millennium. They don't want to bother about it again.
You know, it reminds me of the Artaxerxes, the first portrait, where we had Megabyzus there because Megabyzus was just the cooler person in this story.
That's fair. I remember that. But yeah, if anybody wants to check out this drawing, please go to the episode notes in the description, or Serial's portrait gallery on the website, or on the Discord if you're a patron. And now, Sarah, let me show you what he actually looked like. And we have a coin this time, because, well...
Yeah. What else?
Know, we need to mint a lot of coins to pay the Hephalites to please.
True.
So, here you go. What do you think?
Oh! That's so funny. It looks like a wax seal of how, like, the coin is so uneven.
Yeah, they had to make a lot of coins very fast.
Yeah, they were just like, put more or less the amount of silver that we need and we'll just squish it. Yeah, it's a cool stylization. I like that the crown goes outside of the frame of the coin. That's new. That's cool.
Detail.
But nothing much, just the profile, you see the crown, the hair on the back, and the writing on the right side.
Presumably saying the good King Balash as he wanted.
And yeah, I don't know. It's like, I'm not interested.
Yeah, it's not great. It's a coin, and coins are always less interesting. And I wouldn't say this is an especially memorable coin. It's like, I guess it's a guy. Fair enough.
I do think it's cool that like the crown goes over the frame, but like that's why I will go to a 2 and not a 1.
Yeah,
I guess a 0 would be if we had nothing, because
0 is nothing. 1 is if there's absolutely nothing remarkable about it. 2 is like, okay, there's the crown thing. It's a little bit fun, I guess, but that's it. So with a 2 and a 2, he gets a 1 out of 5 for Face of Faces. Our next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this man reigned?
I feel like 10 years would be too long, but he did do. I mean, a lot of things happened. So
10 years is far too long. He only reigned for a total of
5.
4. But yeah, close enough.
Well, almost.
So yeah, he reigned for 4 years, from 484 to 488, when he was finally replaced with his nephew Kavad, who we'll see next time.
Mm-hmm.
Take 4 years divided by 10, that is 0.4 out of 5 for lengthiness. And that brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 9.4 out of 100, placing him under Vadfradad I and above Orodes I, who has the same score. So not the most memorable king. He's just a placeholder that needed to be there for
he was there.
stuff to happen. But, oh well. Which I think gives us a clear conclusion for the next one, asking, is he puppeted enough? Is he surviving enough? Is he eventually deposed enough to be a Shahanshah? Or is he just a Shahadna?
Nah.
Yeah. Wasn't much of a chance here. So, sorry, Balash, you can go off into the desert and meet your brother Hormizd and tell him that,
oopsie.
Yeah, being overthrown by family seems to be a trend here, but hopefully Kavad will do well. Let's see how he does. Hooray! So that is the end of our episode. Thank you for joining. We hope you had a good time, and we hope you're all looking forward to Kavad next time. What does being raised as a hostage make you do?
Well,
is he going to do things well? Is Sukra going to just find another puppet to put on the throne next time? Who knows? Join us to find out how that works.
Yep.
In the meantime, if you'd like to support us, you can do it in different ways. You can join our Patreon, where we'll have a series of extra episodes. Next week, we're going to have Ptolemy III, which is going to be interesting because he led to the apex of the Ptolemaic Empire and contributed a lot to the Library of Alexandria. And there is a catalog of another 15 previous episodes. They're all there, all being produced. And soon we'll have even more episodes on the list, so Pompey the Great, Odenathus, and eventually something that our patrons will vote for winter.
Yeah.
If instead you'd rather not support us monetarily, we appreciate if you could give us a review on your podcast app of choice. Spotify has comments now. You can add it there as well.
Yeah.
It's just nice to know that you appreciate the work we do, and it helps us bow down to the almighty algorithm and have them point to us somewhere so new people can discover this. And yeah, as I mentioned, there's plenty of things coming up soon. There's going to be a very exciting period, so get in while it's hot. And yeah, I guess without any further ado, we hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.